Ben was a billionaire, but despite his wealth, he lived a simple life with his father, who was poor. He had everything money could buy, but his greatest treasure was his father. Since his mother passed away, Ben had taken care of his father, making sure he was always happy and comfortable. Ben and his mother had shared an unbreakable bond. They were always together, laughing, talking, and telling jokes. Their love for each other was so strong that people rarely saw them apart. Losing her was the most painful thing Ben had ever experienced, but he promised himself he would always take care of his father. To Ben, his father was his first responsibility. No matter how busy he was, he always made time for him, ensuring he was well and never lacked anything. One evening after dinner, Ben's father called him to sit beside him. His voice was gentle but serious. "Ben, my son," he said, looking at him with love. "You have done so much for me. You have taken care of me like a good son should, and I am proud of you. But it is time for you to think about yourself. You are a grown man now. You need a wife and a family of your own." Ben sighed and looked at his father. "Father, I will get married when I find the right woman. But I don't want to rush and end up with someone who will come between us or treat you badly. I won't tolerate that." His father smiled and patted his hand. "I understand your fears, my son, but not all women are bad. There are good ones out there. You just have to choose wisely. A good wife will love you and respect our family." Ben thought for a moment, then nodded. "I hear you, father. I promise I will be careful when the time comes." His father smiled, satisfied. "That's all I ask." Ben hugged his father and thanked him for his advice. But deep down he wondered, was there really a woman out there who would love him and respect his bond with his father? Little did he know that his life was about to change in ways he never expected. One evening, Ben arrived home with a beautiful lady by his side. His father, who had been resting in the living room, sat up with curiosity as they walked in. "Father," Ben said with a warm smile, "I want you to meet someone special. This is Lora." Lora stepped forward with a respectful bow. "Good evening, sir," she greeted politely. Ben's father looked at her carefully, then smiled. "Welcome, my daughter. Please, have a seat." As they all sat down, Ben turned to Lora with a serious expression. "Lora, I love you and I want you to be my wife, but before anything else, you need to understand something. My father is my everything. He raised me, he sacrificed for me, and I will never allow anyone to treat him badly. If you ever do, I will not hesitate to throw you out." Lora quickly held Ben's hand and looked into his eyes. "Ben, I promise you, I will never joke with your father. I will love him as my own." Hearing this, Ben's father smiled and nodded approvingly. He could see sincerity in Lora's eyes. Without wasting time, Ben began making preparations for the wedding. It was a grand event, attended by family, friends, and important people from all over. The decorations sparkled, the music was lively, and the joy in the air was overwhelming. On the wedding day, Ben was the happiest man in the world. He danced with excitement, his heart filled with love for Lora. Lora, too, was glowing with happiness. She felt blessed to have a loving husband, and the fact that he was a billionaire made it even better. After the wedding, their home was filled with laughter and love. Lora quickly became part of their small but happy family. Every evening, the three of them would sit together in the living room, talking and joking like old friends. Lora was comfortable with them, enjoying their company as they laughed and shared stories. There was peace in their home, and Ben felt lucky to have found a woman who truly understood and respected the bond he shared with his father. But as time passed, something began to change. Would their happiness last forever? One afternoon, Lora sat alone in the living room, deep in thought. Ben had gone out for a business meeting, leaving her at home with his father. As she sat there, an unsettling thought crossed her mind. Why is my father-in-law always sitting around with us? Doesn't he know we need our private time as husband and wife? Why is he always here, listening to our conversations? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She felt like she had no privacy in her own home. Then, an idea came to her, one that would teach her father-in-law a lesson he would never forget. "This is the perfect time," she muttered to herself. "Since Ben isn't home, I will deal with him now." Without hesitation, Lora walked to the backyard, filled a bucket with cold water, and marched back inside. Her father-in-law was sitting peacefully in his usual chair, unaware of what was coming. Before he could react, Lora threw the entire bucket of water on him. The old man gasped in shock, drenched from head to toe. He looked up at Lora with confusion and sadness. "Lora, my daughter, what have I done to deserve this?" he asked, his voice calm but filled with pain. Lora crossed her arms and shouted, "You are too mean. Why are you always sitting around with us? Can't you give us space? What do you even want to hear? Are you spying on us, gossiping father-in-law?" Ben's father sat in silence for a moment, his heart heavy with disappointment. Without saying another word, he stood up and walked to his room, tears streaming down his face. He could not believe that the woman he had welcomed into his home with love had just humiliated him in such a cruel way. That evening, Ben returned home, expecting to find his usual happy household. But instead, he found his father sitting alone in his room, his eyes red from crying. "Father, what's wrong?" Ben asked, rushing to his side. His father hesitated, but then told him everything that had happened. Ben's face turned red with anger. Without wasting a second, he stormed into the living room where Lora was sitting comfortably. "Lora!" he roared. She looked up, startled. "What is it, my love?" Ben's eyes burned with fury. "Are you out of your mind? Why did you pour water on my father? Did you drink something that made you lose your senses?" Lora stood up and scoffed. "Oh, Ben, I haven't even started yet. Your father needs to learn to give us space." Ben could not believe what he was hearing. His hands clenched into fists, and without another word he pointed to the door. "Get out," he said coldly. Laura's eyes widened in shock. "What?" I said. "Get out," Ben shouted. "I will not tolerate anyone who disrespects my father. I warned you before we got married. Now, leave my house and never come back." Lora fell to her knees, crying. "Please, Ben, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Forgive me." But Ben had made up his mind. He ignored her pleas, opened the door, and ordered her to leave. With no choice, Lora picked up her belongings and walked out, sobbing. But it was too late. Her greed and lack of respect had cost her everything. That night, Ben sat beside his father and held his hand. "Father, I promise you, I will never marry a woman who treats you badly again. You are my everything." His father smiled, tears of gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, my son. You have made me proud." From that day on, Ben and his father returned to their happy life, just as it was before Lora came into their lives. Their bond remained unbreakable, and they lived in peace, love, and laughter. Moral lessons. 1. Respect and kindness matter. A person who does not respect others, especially elders, does not deserve a place in your life. 2. Love should never come at the cost of family. Anyone who tries to destroy the bond you share with your loved ones is not the right person for you. 3. True colors will always show. No matter how hard someone tries to pretend, their real character will always come to light. 4. Family is priceless. Never trade the love and care of a family member for someone who does not appreciate their presence. Thank you message. Thank you, dear viewers, for following this story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. Always cherish your loved ones, and never let anyone come between the people who truly care for you. See you in the next story.